Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call the December meeting of Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Commission to order. I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight. Glad you braved the weather and the upcoming winter weather to join us tonight. Michael, will you lead us in prayer today?
Bow your heads, please. Dear God, just want to thank you for everything that you've blessed us with in the lives that we live, for the families and friends that we share, for everybody that is here tonight, all the first responders across our county, for everything that you do to watch over us and keep us safe. I just ask that you continue to do that and watch over us, especially as this winter storm comes in. Thank you for everything that you do for us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Public address. Do we have anybody to address the commission tonight? Don't see any. The minutes were in a packet that were emailed this week. The floor will entertain a motion for approval when ready.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved as recorded. Thank you, Bonnie.
Sorry, real quick before we hit the administrative reports, I just wanted to introduce our new administrative coordinator, Kinsley Lawler. Kinsley's here local with us. I don't know if you want to say anything about yourself.
Sure. My name's Kinsley. I've been in this area for almost 10 years now. I went to Virginia Tech. I'm originally from Stanton, Virginia, if you know where that is. I worked at Bradford Coffee for 5 years. I was the general manager there for a few years, so I'm happy to do something different, gain some new skills, and thanks for having me.
Right. Administrative reports. Supervisor Kids coming tonight. Chris.
Yep, thanks. So yeah, Supervisor Kitts does not have any specific message to pass along, but I'm sure he would just say thank you. And Angela Hill is also Angie. She's off today and tomorrow. So I do have a couple notes under kind of her report, and then there's other things throughout the agenda that I'll just touch on.
Okay.
The main thing was first just a huge thank you to all the crews that you guys, some of you, more than others, but have been super busy. Huge Blacksburg fire, 2 other fires that night. Fox Ridge, of course, was the big one, and then some others, and then backing everybody up and working hard. This is a not so great start to a really cold season and a really busy time for y'all. So we're glad that you all are staying safe, but know that it makes things even harder when it's cold out. Thank you for your service and for the things you do when there's big emergencies like we've experienced. Another note is we do have the auditors coming to the Board of Supervisors in January 12th meeting. Really, that's their audit for the county as a whole budget and for last year, but it was just a little reminder. I think there's just a couple things left that they have, and they can get wrapped up, and then that'll kind of finish up all the volunteer crews with y'all's audit. So I think there's 1 or 2 from 2 crews that they've reached out to, but just whatever you can do to kind of help get those answers, that would be really helpful. And then the other 2 items are on the agenda later, so I'll hold off on those. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions or comments for Chris? Just a quick question on the audits, Chris.
Yes.
You said the auditors are coming to the Board of Supervisors meeting. Will it be the results of the?
They're not coming to focus or touch on the volunteers, but just knowing that they're coming, and as the board values, your all's work, and if the question comes up, I think there's just 1 or 2 outstanding items. So anything we can do to help get those finished up would be great.
So those audits are not complete
They're
yet.
not complete yet. And that's not the focus of their meeting, but I just didn't want something to be asked, at the public meeting and if we can't get it finished already, so.
Okay, understood. Thank you. Jason?
Mainly, I just wanted to thank Chief Hanks and Chief English and Chief Geary for making a trip with me to Rockingham County Fire and EMS and Albemarle County Fire and EMS several weeks, almost a month ago now. I think those were some of the most beneficial visits that we've had recently, looking at how other bigger jurisdictions handle their 911 and fire and EMS interactions. So I think Michael's got a few words to say about that later on, but I appreciate them. It was a long day, a lot of driving, but all one day.
Jason? Okay, moving on to whole business, the fire and EMS study. Chris?
Sure. Just a couple items with this, the update on the study. A couple weeks ago, Frank and Karen and David, their team came in town. They were here for almost 5 days. And just a huge thank you. They were able to get to every single station, have a lot of conversations, one-on-one, and also in some group settings. They really saw, I think, they at least saw everything. We hosted public meetings, a fire and rescue commission meeting, volunteer rescue, county folks, town folks, career staff, all had different times and different meetings. So it was a lot of work on everybody's part, but just a huge thank you to all the time you all had to spend on that. Michael and I are kind of working on, and we'll touch base with individual agencies as needed, but they're still working through collecting a lot of data in this part of the process. So, we got some pretty good responses on all the surveys, and they did volunteer surveys, citizen surveys, and then emergency partner surveys. And then, they're working closely with Michael and Jason on CAD data from the 911 center, and then there's still just some more stuff that as you all can help pull that together, if we can help at all. We'll kind of just remind folks of what they're still waiting on. Mostly it's incident reports, budgets, just different information so that they can help paint the picture of kind of where we are today, and they're still on target to proceed with an April conclusion and final report. So thanks for everybody's input. And I'll just also say, if there are any questions, concerns, anything, don't hesitate. Call myself, call Angie. We're happy to listen to it. We've heard a couple. We've called and talked to Mission CIT, and just either expressed them or kind of got a little feedback and made sure they understood a little feedback as well, and that's worked pretty well so far. So don't hold back or stew over it. Just if there's anything, just let us know, and we'll work on dealing with it. So thanks.
Any questions or comments from the group on EMS, fire and EMS study? Career staff volunteering update, Michael.
Yes, I know it's been a few months since this came up, but I just wanted to provide an update to everybody. So it had come up a couple months ago that there was a potential issue with volunteers within the county also working for the county. So we took it to the county attorney to get his determination on what legally the county could do. He reviewed several different cases in which it had come up, and ultimately he made the determination that volunteers could work for the county department as long as they were not working and volunteering in the same station. So as long as there's that separation, it's okay for volunteers to work for the county in that capacity. So he reviewed, like I said, several different cases in which that had come up, and that was his ultimate determination. So it is perfectly fine and well for volunteers to work for the county as firefighters and EMS providers.
Any other old business? New business, fiscal year 27 budget request. Michael?
Real quickly, budget requests are due tomorrow, and then at our commission meeting in January is when we'll talk through those budget requests, just like we do every year. So just make sure you get those submitted tomorrow, and we'll talk about them in January.
Training center paving, chief?
So, sure everybody knows we had a big fire down at the quarry there off Chanel Road. While we were there, Chief Hanks, made contact with, sure I get his title right, Vice President of Plant Operations. Kinda headed that up to see if we get some pavement down at the training center. Chief Hanks out of town last week. I touched base, with Mr. Cooper from the Adams Construction. Their hope, if the weather holds off, hasn't got any better since the day I met with him last week. They hope to have it paved to the top of the hill before they shut the plant down, sometime before Christmas. Weather's not cooperating really good right now, but we met with them a month and a half ago. And I mean, they really seem like they're on board with helping out, and if at least at a reduced rate to try to get some pavement down there so we can keep the entrance in good shape anyway.
Okay, thank you, chief. Surplus equipment.
Just for the group, I know there's at least one unit out getting ready to go to surplus right now, and there's several others that are coming up for surplus with new vehicle orders this year. There's an old ambulance dive truck from Reiner Fire that's come up for surplus that is currently sitting at the old FedEx building on Roanoke Street, where our new office will be. So I wanted to ask about that one in specific, if there are any departments that are interested in it in front of the commission, and then as more come up, they'll be shared with the group as well. I'm not sure of the specifics of that truck. You may be able to speak to more, Chief King.
Right now, it needs a compressor for the airbags in the back. That poor old truck, seemed like every time we fix something, things would fall apart on us. We just kind of give up. It's supposed to have a newer motor in it. It is a 6.0 motor, but not all we know about it.
Is that an old Shawsville truck?
Yeah, it's the one that they put the new motor in. It's got a drain on the battery somewhere. We couldn't figure out where it was. We just put a throw switch on the battery. It seemed to do the trick.
Jason mentioned the 911 center visits. I think Michael's gonna add to that.
Yeah, Chief Hanks, if you want to chime in as well. So the two visits that we had with Rockingham with Albemarle were both really good visits. I think of the four that we did, those two were the most similar to us. Heavy combination systems operating with volunteer-only departments, with career staff thrown in here and there. But some of what we learned at both places is they're able to do it kind of seamlessly throughout the system. So I know in Rockingham County, they have a software that is interoperable with their 911 center, where they're essentially able to cut down and reduce a lot of their radio traffic by using iPads within the units. I know Rockingham had at least one station that was all volunteer that was using that system. So I believe we're going to try and do a demo on that software and see how effective that may be within our system here. But just in general, we learned a lot just from talking to them about some of the do's and don'ts, some things that they've learned along the way, some things that we need to be aware of with the transition to the new radio system. But all in all, both were really good visits, and take them back to the joint advisory and get some of their input on them. But there was a lot, I think, that we could do to solve some of our issues here that we saw at those two places.
Academy. That's you as well.
Yep, Bradley's not here, so I guess I'll take it. I will credit Bradley, and Megan Atkinson from Montgomery County Public Schools because they really spearheaded the Teen Academy this year. It was really our chance to see what it was gonna be, if it was anything that we could continue with the schools, if there was enough interest from high school students. And I think it blew our expectations out of the water. We started with 27 students from Christiansburg and Auburn high schools. We ended up graduating 22 of those students, so it was kind of our demo to see if it was something that would be a success in the future, and I think it absolutely was. A majority of those students walked away and immediately were asking how they could get involved, whether it's volunteering, whether it's something they could do as a career. And ultimately, the goal is, one, to run the Teen Academy every year to build that interest within the high schools, but then two is to take that and build it into a program within the schools. Megan talked about it a little bit at a previous Fire and Rescue Commission meeting, but ultimately we want to be at least teaching an EMT program in the high schools each year, to allow them to graduate, or even prior to graduation, begin volunteering or begin working, to start bolstering some of our rosters. I think the ultimate goal is that we're doing EMS and fire in the schools, and that upon them graduating, that they're joining the ranks of the departments within the county and helping benefit the community. But there was a lot of interest just from the two high schools that went through it this year. We have submitted a budget request to be able to hire someone to run that program, at least the EMT program in the high school. The schools are also trying to do the same thing, so I don't know where that may fall, when it does fall, but we'd like to be able to start that program next year on top of the Teen Academy, and hopefully get something that we've talked about for years and years and years now started and successful. It went incredibly well. I know several departments in here participated in that and helped make it a success. And thank you to everybody that did. And as we grow, we'll reach out to more departments and more people and build it into something that hopefully serves us for years to come.
Eight localities, Chief.
So
Chris,
I'll,
I'll start.
I'll start, and then
Okay.
Chief Hanks can fill in anything else. So as you know, Supervisor King's on the State Fire Services Board, and at a recent meeting that he came back from too, just wanted to make sure that there's a new system. It's going to be effective July 1st, and to ensure that each agency has access to it, and your respective data is uploaded to it, because that's what kind of dictates or guides your fair share of all of our aid to locality funding. So the main thing is just make sure you have access and then have your data uploaded in.
It was voted on by the fire board, under the motion by Supervisor King. Made the motion to accept the new fire board policy. Every fire department in the state of Virginia will have to report their calls. If they do not report their calls, then they are not eligible for ATL funding. It's going to be left up to the county, locality, to determine how to split out that aid to locality money. So we've got 5 departments, this is fire departments only. We've got five fire departments in the county, and everyone gets a certain share. And I think the way the county breaks it down now is based upon coverage area or population, I believe is the way it is. But for example, if Christiansburg was not reporting our calls, then the county would take the money that we would normally get for ATL money, and then it would be up to the county, and they could distribute it back to the other 4 departments however they see fit. But the new NERS system, everyone should already be signed up in some way, shape, or form, either with NERS online or with some kind of reporting software like ESO or Image Trend or somebody, and should be getting ready to start reporting. This all has to be in place by January 1. The aid to locality policy will be in effect July 1 of 2026. So it won't affect the aid to locality money this year, but it will affect the aid to locality money in year 2026-27. But it will be up to the county to determine to make sure that each fire department is reporting their calls, submitting their calls the way they should be submitting the calls. And then if one of the departments within the locality is not, then it's up to the county to decide how they want to distribute that money. But everything, and what spurred this, is everything we do is data driven. When we go before the House and the Senate to try to request more money, which the fire board is trying to request another penny on the insurance dollars, the locality money has not been increased since its conception. And when we go to the Senate to try to get more money through the aid to locality money to increase our funding of aid to locality, they want to know, they want to see numbers. And over half of the departments in the state of Virginia do not report. So it's really hard for us to go to the state representatives and request this money if we don't have the data to back it up. So you don't need any more money because you're not reporting your calls. How many calls are you running? Well, we can tell them our calls have increased by 20%, 30%, 50% or whatever, but they're not gonna take our word for it. We've got to produce the data to be able to do that. So Fire Board has kicked this around. I've been on the board now. This is my third term on the board, and we've talked about it all 3 years I've been there, and I think it's been discussed in prior years before that also. And we finally adopted the policy unanimously at the last Fire Board meeting to put this in motion. So that's where it's coming from.
Moving on. Volunteer incentives and active membership status.
So I think most of the conversation really is for you all tonight. I know, the board has expressed and is moving forward with a personal property tax classification for volunteer fire and rescue personnel per the state code. So on Monday night, and there's really two parts to that. So Monday, they'll have their meeting and should take action on our policy to create the classification. The second step is what's the number? What is the incentive? What's the value attached to it? And they're looking for your all's perspective on things and your feedback, but that'll take place like basically through the budget process. It's kind of like setting the tax rate. They'll set the personal property tax rate, but they have to create this category because we don't have it. And so that's one part. The second part is the way the state code reads. It requires to receive that tax benefit, that tax abatement or tax classification. You have to actively run calls and or have other administrative functional duties, but it doesn't define what that is. But those are the words it says. So one of the key questions really is, what is actively run calls, and what are those administrative functions that basically invest an amount of time that kind of meets a certain expectation where if you qualify, then you would get a tax category, tax rebate, tax discount. So I think ultimately for Monday they'll move forward and decide what to do on enabling it. I do, and I'll just kind of say there was some confusion, and in some ways I do think I dropped the ball. We talked about this last spring, late winter. The board did meet on it. They did give some direction that said, yes, we're interested. But we didn't really follow through. We didn't I thought it was a little easier than what it was. And when we went back to look at it, because all the tax bills went out, and we looked at the state code, they actually have to adopt something formal, and then it has to be adopted by January 31st. So we're kind of lining up for that to be done, of course, before January 31st, 2026. And then they'll set the tax rate, that incentive amount, through the budget process. but I think the key question for you all and, for discussion, as you guys walk through it tonight and can at future meetings, as needed, is just what is actively run calls, and what are those kind of administrative duties that rise to the level of not everybody has to run calls. There's a lot of functions in a department. And then, so the other part to that, and just to kind of give you a couple ideas, and I think, talking with Michael, there's certainly some discussion already, which is great, is there's certainly some departments who run a lot of calls, and there's some departments who they just don't, and that's no, you don't get to decide that, but if you're on call, on duty, there's a lot of things that you do that take significant amount of time to devote to it, and a lot of things such as training, going to training, being the trainer. So I think there's a lot of areas that certainly you guys can talk about, like what constitutes the hours or points or whatever, however you'd want to structure it. And then the other key part to all that is you have to track it. A little bit kind of like the Chief Hank's point is you got to have the data. And I think when it comes to public funds, the data, it has to be there to have transparency, have that commitment to if we're doing something with public dollars, that the assurances are there, and that's where it comes back to you got to record it. The chiefs have to certify it and then submit it. That is similar to what you do with the decal fee, but that's only $23, and there's really very little bar to reach there. You're either active or not, or a life member. So that's a much simpler threshold to meet, and it's fairly easy. We already have a system and it works. But when you start getting up to personal property tax and hundreds of dollars, that data and that recordation just has to be there. And then we just have to figure out how you guys do that, and we have time to do that. So that's kind of my thoughts so far, and we're happy to help. I know staff is happy to help in terms of what assistance y'all may need to implement something like that.
Yeah, I think determining active status has always been a struggle. Is to try to determine what exactly what that definition means. And it is different for every department. You have something to add?
We've talked about active member, we've talked about trying to define an active member ever since I've been the fire chief here, so it's been 16 years. And as far back as Neil Turner's time here as emergency coordinator, he passed out a piece of paper back in probably 2010 that sort of gave definition of active member, give the related stuff to active member, so forth, so on. I don't want to, did you make any copies of this or anything? But I gave Michael a copy of this so he could look at it, but I'm pretty sure it was about 2010, the first time we ever started talking about this. No one in this room, no one in the room at that time could agree upon what an active member was. And it says, one of the paragraphs in it says, an active member shall be one that serves on a squad on a regular assigned schedule of participation is determined by the board of directors, which at that time, he pulled this from somewhere. I don't know where he got it. The chief or his designee for the purpose of this shall determine scheduling of active members. Active member contributes to the squad or department in a meaningful manner. Each leadership reserves the right to determine who is active and who is not active. So I think, that the biggest question is, and I've gone through a little bit of this with the town, and I definitely don't want to compare the county to the town because I don't think we need to do that. But I think you've got to define what is an active person. What does that person do? And this is not, to me, it's not what we've done in the past. This is a new program that the county's getting ready to offer, so it's gotta start the day they vote on it, moving forward. It's a new program. It's not something that, well, this is what we did in the past. When they vote on the policy and they approve the policy, then that starts that day and it's from that day forward. So how do we define an active member? Number one, you define an active member by someone that's running calls. I think we can all agree that running calls would help you define as an active member. But what if your members aren't able to run calls? What if you've got senior members that have been here 20 or 30 years? What do they do to participate within that department that helps keep them in an active status? In Reiner's case, your dinners and stuff you do, they come out and they participate in the dinners, that's active stuff. My people, when we're doing fire prevention, when we're doing wilderness trail days, we're doing the fall festivals, we're doing national night out and stuff like that. My senior guys that don't really run a lot of calls participate in that stuff. To me, that's still being active. But I think we've got, for the purposes of for the board, I think we've got to set some kind of criteria that they can bank on. They're giving us an incentive here, to have active membership. So I think we as a group have to put together what this group is going to agree upon as what's being active. And I gave you just three small training. Training's active. If you come in and participate in training, that's active. Special events, running calls, coming to the station, sitting at the station waiting on a call to happen. That's being active. May not run a call all night long. You might come in and sit 5 hours. You got to document it though. You've got to document that that person was there 3 hours that day waiting on calls. To me, that's being active. But we've got to have the documentation to support it.
I can. Chief English had sent me his thoughts on it since he couldn't be here tonight, and I'm just gonna read the email verbatim, just so I don't miss anything. So talking in his first person, for us, we'd strongly prefer total hours as a measure of activity, primarily because this is how we currently track and measure it, so it would avoid adding more work. It also takes different membership categories and types into account while still ensuring they're actively involved in participating. Call percentage is not practical for us and doesn't translate to the same to a busy EMS agency as compared to a fire department who runs a few calls per month. For example, if we said you had to run 10% of calls to be active, that would be 380 calls a year for us. I think one member would get that and the new incentive wouldn't even apply to her. It would actively exclude people who contribute more than 1,000 hours a year of time to the organization. Our existing membership categories are as follows: full 40 hours a month, associate and active life 20 hours a month, support and associate life 10 hours a month. We'd also want to have clarification of any special considerations, such as it only applying to operational personnel running calls versus admin personnel who do not. I'd also like to clarify if this is replacing annual gas cards. While the new program sounds great, it's giving a slightly better reward to some, but if we're also taking away the reward from others, then internally we're going to have to figure out how to address that so this doesn't become a disincentive for those who cannot benefit from it.
Yeah, I've got several people who are, run 4 nights a week but don't live in Montgomery County. It doesn't benefit them. They're there, running multiple nights.
It's just like the college students, that volunteer in Blacksburg for the fire department and EMS both. If they don't live in Montgomery County or if they don't have a vehicle title in Montgomery County, it's not going to apply to them.
I've got a bunch.
Huh?
I've got a bunch of Texas.
Yeah, it won't apply to them. And that's, I don't see any way around fixing that. It's state law. You that's how the county's able to do this, is it's in state code. So there's really no way around, fixing that part of it. And we talked about, Michael and I have talked about it, and my membership and I have talked about this several times. Trying to get them to give me ideas about their thoughts about how should we define an active member? And somebody said percentages, and just like Chief English said in his email, if we put a percentage on it, we're gonna run, we tell our people they've gotta run 20% of the calls to be active in the thing. Well, 20% of our calls doesn't match 20% of Long Shop's calls, nor would it meet 20% of Reiner calls, If we're running 20% of the calls, my guys are gonna have to run 300 calls a year. Period. And then if say like, I don't know, what do y'all run a year, Mike? I mean, total calls a year, 400?
I think we're right at 200 this year.
Okay, so you're at 200 calls, so 20% of 200 is gonna be 40 calls.
Yes.
My guys are running 300, so that's really not.
We also throw in there, we do 20% of calls and 40% of meetings. That's
don't
part
think-
of it as well.
Yeah.
It's going to meetings, that's part of our training and making sure everything's going good.
Wasn't there a piece in the code that said something about meetings?
It doesn't say meetings, it says administrative
Administrative.
functions.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
it
so
definitely recognizes room for.
So yeah, if it doesn't specifically say meetings, you could count meetings, but you need to
You
document.
just have to define it.
You have to
list it.
define it and document the hours that they were there at the meetings. And, we talked about that too, like our minimum meeting's a 2-hour meeting twice a month. So 4 hours a month, my guys will go get 4 hours a month if they come to the meetings. Do we wanna put an hour thing on it? Do we wanna have a minimum number of hours? I don't know. I mean, I think it's up to this group to decide what we want. Or how we wanna police it, because it's ultimately, the chief is ultimately gonna be held accountable, to the county, to turn this list in, and this is, I know this happened, but you gotta have the documentation to back up whatever you send in. And, I think that's what we need to decide as a group, is what do we want?
I know we'd worked through, a couple of years ago, trying to come up with a point system.
Yeah.
So many points for calls and so many points for training and.
Yeah, Chief Cole brought that in from Roanoke County, and they had a point system set up in Roanoke County, and we talked about that, we kicked that around. Just could not get a consensus, of how to move forward with that, but you got so many points to run calls, you got so many points to attend business meetings, you got so many points to do special functions, special event functions, so many points to do training, and that, I mean, I'm open to anything.
I know there was a point in time, commission adopted something that Mikey come out with the point system thing as
We
well,
never-
and then unadopted it.
No, I don't think we ever adopted anything, we discussed it,
I may have been
we
wrong.
discussed
I
it,
thought
and,
there was a vote and everything.
yeah, we discussed it.
Everybody changed
Steve,
their
we
mind.
discussed that point system that time, but we never took a vote on that.
It got really close.
It got close to
I think that was the
people
only.
wanting to vote, and then everybody just pulled back from it.
Yeah.
But I don't think we ever took a vote.
Well, I think actually what happened was the town of Blacksburg and town of Christiansburg didn't buy into it or couldn't buy into it. It ultimately kind of fell through with it.
It had something to do with the $699 threshold, or the $599 threshold about what they were gonna pay. And I think the finance director in Christiansburg, I think was it $699?
$5.99.
$5.99.
I think 600 was. the
$5.99.
magic
$600 threshold
Right.
that you have to submit a W-2 to each person that got that. And the town's finance director at that time was not gonna do that for Christiansburg.
So,
They were gonna tax you on it.
yeah, that's what
Yeah.
so that observation, that's a different way of handling it, cause that would come across as
paycheck.
as a paycheck, you know,
Right.
or taxable.
Yeah, we were gonna do I believe we were gonna do a cash incentive,
cash incentive.
and the $5.99 was the threshold.
Right.
And then the finance director in Christiansburg at that time would not go along with that because she considered that a paycheck. And then it was have to be taxed.
And then you gotta send W-2s to every.
Gotta send
single-
W-2s to everybody in the group.
And just to clarify, this does not have, it has no income related. It's just like if you're a veteran, we have a veteran classification category. And you fill out the paperwork, you know, you assure that you are who you are and that you're still there, and then you get it. So it's just a different tax rate for a different classification of people. So it does deal with that income issue.
One thing I'll just throw out there, one of our consultants that has been helping us along the way with the study, she was the volunteer program manager in Loudoun County, and she's still very involved up there. She's still volunteer up there. And she had noted to us that Loudoun County just went through overhauling their point system and turning it into an hour system because the point system was way too hard to manage. Now they have software set up there to track hours, but I know they had just gone away from points because it just became too complex.
Point system was definitely gonna be a burden on the administrative part of it, so I kinda in favor of the hour system as well, but it would have to be different for each agency, I think.
So how would you determine the hour qualification, say for us versus Blacksburg or?
I think that would probably be up to the chiefs and to be able to get approval for whatever system we come up with, but as far as tracking hours, that would probably mean you'd have to start using a card to come in the station instead of the accommodation.
Or at least you have to write it down somewhere. I mean, in my mind, you probably don't need like the swipe card, you know, like your job kind of timestamp thing, but you just need to have the person's name, whatever the categories are that you would say, yeah, this qualifies as a category of time, and then somewhere you have a definite. You gotta come up with how many hours, you know, it's gonna achieve that. But so I think there's two parts. You gotta have how many hours, and I don't know if the number of hours, you know, in long shop's gonna be similar or different than like a Blacksburg or a Christiansburg. It's definitely something to, like, I don't know how many hours you wanna spend to begin with, but there's definitely, everybody has meetings, everybody has training, and everybody has some amount of calls that, you know, different stations are gonna have to respond to. Yeah, so just think somewhere we could build a model out of it.
We use, so in our website, we have a scheduling, duty schedule. And when we put people on the duty schedule, it automatically keeps track of their hours because we assign what hours they're there. So I can run a report and see how many hours they run within that, or scheduled to run within that month.
But how many, I mean, we do 2 business meetings a month. How many business meetings do you guys do a month? You do
We do one business and one training,
one training.
usually 2 hours each.
Y'all do about the same?
We do a business meeting, 2 trainings, and then a maintenance meeting,
2 hours minimum, probably.
hour and a half or so, something like that.
So we could probably agree on a 2 hour minimum time stamp for a meeting.
And you gotta figure in that administrative part, because it may be,
Mhm.
maybe hours that you're spending that's not in the station.
Right.
As
As long as you have it and you document it.
Just, yeah,
I mean, I've got
this is,
people
in the
like-
end, all you gotta do is document it.
Yeah.
And we have to define it, you know, you all collectively put it in writing, define it. And Chief Hanks touched on a lot of things running through that list, but just me doing a little bit, of research of things like community events, fundraisers, festivals, schools, official agency events, event planning time. It says HR, but like, y'all still have personnel you have to deal with, so, your non-call related business. There's IT things that you're working on, there's purchasing, insurance, data entry, applying for, these are just like a long list of, these are all things y'all do, and you may not know it or give yourself credit for it either, but, applying for grants, attendance at this meeting. If there's an official local government meeting that y'all have to be at or something, meeting attendance, so it's like, I think there's a lot that you already do.
There's
Just
a lot that we already do, and just like I was using, Mike, I was using your number just for business meetings and stuff and trainings. 96 hours a year.
Yeah.
Is what would be a minimum that you guys are doing right now currently, so 96 hours is easy.
Yeah.
I
And
think
then
the
if you
question
added
is just-
calls into that and you actually documented, you might be out an hour on a call, you might be out 4 hours on a call. And that's gonna add up really, really quick over, if you run 100 calls, if you run 100 calls and you got an hour a call, it's 100 hours.
Yeah.
You're already getting 96 through your business meetings and your trainings. So I think if we come up with an hour figure, I think it would be good for everyone, and everyone would be doing the same thing. Even though we run more calls than you guys do, or Blacksburg runs more calls than we do, if we come up with an hour figure, then everybody's doing the same thing. And here's our list, and these are the things that qualify for it. And then you just tag the hours to it for, you might have a business meeting, I might get in a really bad match one night and have a 4-hour meeting,
With them t-shirts.
Yeah, I mean, you might not decide over what kind of oysters you're gonna sell or something, but still, but even the oyster
Yeah.
supper that you all do, you do that twice a year? Or once a year?
Yeah, once a year.
Once a year, so that's 8 hours or 9 hours,
Yeah.
not including the prep time.
Right.
So I think if we come up with the hour figure, that would be fair to everyone. Everyone's gonna be required to do X number of hours. And
Where the hard
just
part
so-
comes in is you gotta justify who doesn't get it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If your guys are running calls, that's documented on their calls for service.
Right.
If your guys are not active, that should be up to them to provide.
then it's gonna be up to them to do the event stuff. Like I've got 6 right now that cannot run calls, physically not able to run calls, still on the active membership, but they'll come out and do the fire prevention parade, or they'll come out and do the dinner for the fire prevention parade, or they'll do the dinner on training night. And that's documented hours of service in that fire station.
Yeah, but I know we've all probably have members, it used to be a running joke back when they used to give us the county stickers, and we would give them out, and we'd have a meeting that everybody showed up to, and you'd say, wow, it must be county sticker night. Anytime you see these guys, so.
Yeah, but I think, like I said before, this is moving forward. This is not what we've done in the past. This is a new program, starts whatever date we start this thing, and it's moving forward. And then here, for my membership, I've got a list. Guys, if you want this $750 tax incentive or whatever we decide it's gonna be, these are the items that count towards your hours. And we've gotta have you gotta have X number of hours a year to be eligible to receive that. And it's up to them whether or not they wanna do it. Like I'm not gonna be eligible for it because I'm a paid employee for the town of Christiansburg. For a little bit longer. But when I am eligible for it, here's the list. I know that going into it, this is what I've gotta do, and I've gotta get X number of hours, and then I can get that tax break.
So one thing to clarify, if I heard Chief English's email correctly, was this is part of like the incentive package. So there's definitely, there's no interest in clawing anything back. This is just adding. So, the gas cards or that Christmas, funding that comes into the agencies still the same, and then how you all distribute that's up to you. The decal value or basically just, there's no decal anymore, so. But, that stays the same, but one of the things with that may be just to acknowledge like, if you're a member, but you're active, which is what we have right now, and we get a list from the chiefs and says these are active. So you're still defining that somewhere, but you may have two different definitions. There's an active to get $23, and then there's an active to get up to whatever the number is. But I mean, it can easily be $500 to $750 easily. If you have a $30,000 to $50,000 vehicle or truck, which is nothing today.
If you get, if you got a 69 Camaro, you're gonna get $35, Steve, but.
It's
If you got a new
depreciated.
truck, it's gonna help you some. It won't pay for all that tax bill, but it's gonna help you some.
So I think, from that standpoint, nothing is intended to be taken away. There may have to be different levels of incentives that you qualify for. And then one of the dynamics of it is, if I drive a 1998 Honda Accord and that's what I do and I'm good with that, I'm not gonna get much, unless maybe I drive a brand new truck, or just a brand new Honda Accord. So I mean, there is a little bit there, but there's less ability to kind of deal with that through the personal property tax, because that's just a standard taxable way of value to approach it. So I think one of that intent is, are there incentives? And this is just one, and if there's some others, I think the board's certainly open to considering them, but this is definitely one that has a lot of interest and support.
Did I understand you to say there'd be different levels?
Well, yeah, like if you all define how many hours qualifies for the personal property tax category incentive, that may be different than just the $23 registration fee.
What I was getting at is, just a random number, if you need 100 hours to qualify for the personal property tax relief.
Yeah.
If you got 50 hours, would you qualify for half?
As long as you say they're active, which is really all we ask today is.
But there'd be no prorated thing, so if you got half the number of hours,
Not
we
as,
define as
not
active.
as not as proposed, and I'm not sure how we necessarily would do that. We can look at
Would be basically just a digital only.
Yeah,
You do or you don't, so.
and it may be like the tax categories up to a certain value, because if you have a $50,000 vehicle versus a 20, you may pay $1,500 in taxes. The veterans policy, your taxes are wiped clean no matter what you have. So if you have a $50,000 truck or a 1998, $2,000 Honda Accord, your taxes are just zeroed out. There's no differentiation if you're just the way the veteran works kind of status, versus saying, hey, the first 30,000, almost like the car tax, the first $30,000 is taxed at this rate, and then everything over that number is taxed at a different rate. And I'm overcomplicating it, but it's just trying to keep it,
If we, of course, y'all haven't talked, or the board has not talked about prorating.
no, right.
They're talking about a flat, we're gonna give you a personal property tax break on one vehicle that you use. But if we
We
try to
haven't talked-
prorate it, that's gonna really get complicated if we try to prorate.
Yes, it really monkeys it. But
We need to try to keep it as simple as we can, because and part of that too, I think, if we if we go to them and say, can you prorate it? And that's gonna put a burden on whoever is trying to figure out what to submit to do, you know, to get that personal property tax break. That's gonna give you more hours though, Steve.
Yeah, I agree fully.
I mean, it's gonna create a paper trail that you just really gonna get tired of doing.
I don't think you can, because if they don't make the active number,
Right,
then they're not active,
right,
right?
right.
So then they wouldn't be eligible for it, right?
Yeah.
Now, I've got one member, he takes most of a year to plan trainings and stuff like that.
That's
Will I
out.
just tell him, just write your hours down and let me have it?
Absolutely.
Okay,
That's what I would do.
okay, cause I mean, I don't want him to call, hey, I'm getting ready to call Derek, probably on the phone for an hour, I'll call you back when I'm done, and me have to write that down,
That's where the chief's gotta police it.
Right, well, I mean, I
If you
just wanna make
trust
sure.
your people, if you trust your people, to give you the correct number of hours, then you can sleep well at night. But I think, cause I beat this thing around with the town for a couple of weeks, but now, maybe 4 weeks for now, a lot more time than I wanted to invest in it, but coming up with a number, and even my membership, we've talked about it for 2 months, because when we first talked about this a couple of months ago, I took it straight back to them and said, look, y'all gotta help me define this. Cause, we're just like every department in the county. We've got active membership, but not all of our active membership are actively running calls, but they do other stuff within the station that can count toward this incentive. And I think if we put a number on it, that would be fair to everyone, then, Chris can take that back to the board, take it back to Angie and say, this is the number they came up with. Do you support this number? And I think that's what the supervisors are looking for probably.
I got one more question on that. So if you didn't run, say it was set at 100, you didn't run that, you're saying that you're not taking away from the other incentives that's already in place, but you're going off that active list. How are you is the chief's gonna have to do a separate list for, okay, this is an active member, but he didn't meet the qualifications list versus, you know what I mean? So they don't lose
I
their
know.
other
I
incentives.
know exactly what you mean, cause I've seen the current list. And I think the simple answer is, unless we can figure something else out, but like, you either have 2 lists or you define a member as 2 different categories. I don't know if it's associate active or active, I don't know what you would call it.
Active or really active.
Yeah, right. So you're active, but you're not really active. Okay, great, you can get this, but if you're really active,
You got this.
you got this. Or there's just 2 lists, and or there's 1 list with 2 columns. One is, it may just be the names, incentive 1, incentive 2, incentive 3. Incentive 1 is, which we don't really do it this way, is the gas cards. We just write you all a check, so that's not on us. It's really, do you get a registration waiver, and then in this case, a personal property tax incentive. And then there's 2 columns, and there's a check mark next to each one of them. So we can figure that part out, I think, certainly, but I think ultimately, if you can define what constitutes active role in your membership, then what's the number? How many hours is that? Do you need? Our biggest priority is we have to meet the state code, because that's what the rule says. And, we want to incentivize volunteerism through fire and rescue programs. So whatever we can do to help with that, the board's very committed to that. Kind of thought they already did it, but we didn't quite do it this year. So they definitely want to get that finished and ready for you all. So, but they also, I think they want you to come up with it, because this is your profession, your industry, and that's not the 7 of them, or at least 6 of them, are not firsthand involved in volunteer efforts like that. So. they trust your opinion. And we don't have to solve that tonight either, so I think it's, have discussion, have some feedback. Which so far this has been helpful. We can certainly just write up kind of already what we've heard, bring it back in January, and then have you all react to it with a little more, just to help, you all with our staff, to basically give you a proposal. And we can do that in January.
I do think you need to set a time limit on, otherwise it's gonna get swept under the rug. Like first tomorrow, I mean, I'm just throwing this, but I think there needs to be a, y'all agree? Cause otherwise it's just gonna kept getting swept under the rug.
Guess we need to keep it on the agenda until we.
I think we need to, I think everyone needs to go back and think about it, think about, the types of things we talked about, answering calls, training, special events, dinners and stuff that you do, and other stuff you do within the building, like if your membership comes in and y'all are responsible, everybody takes care of their own building, or do they have somebody come in and you mop floors one day, that time counts. It's just tracking it and having that documentation to support it. But I think we all need to go back, think about our hours and come up, I think we should come up with a set number of hours that would be fair for everyone. And then not trying to do this number with hours. And percentage wasn't the way to do it. That's the first thing to come out with my guys, just do a percentage. I said, well, if we do a percentage, we're gonna be running 400 calls a year, based upon the types of calls we got. Y'all would definitely run more at 20%, if you use a 20% mark. But I think if we come up with hours, and I'm just doing some simple math, with Reiner and my department and stuff, I've got a figure in mind on hours, but I think it's doable for everyone. But I think if we come up with that figure, if everybody goes back home, if we get through the holidays, and we come back to the first meeting in January, and you come back with an hour figure of what you think your department members could do reasonably, then we can vote on it here, decide upon the hours. This is what we came up with, and we can push it back to the board and let the board say yes or no, or no, it's not enough hours, or it needs to be more hours. But I think the board will probably do whatever we come up with if it looks reasonable.
What hour figure do you have?
That's what I was getting ready to ask.
200, and based upon our business meetings alone, we do 2 business meetings a month, at 2 hours a meeting. That's 4 hours a month times 12 is 48. And in my guy, we do Wilderness Trail Days, we do National Night Out, we do Fall Festival, we do the Fire Prevention Parade, we have station duty, we have cleanup duty, we have training, we run calls, and our number realistically can be much, much, much higher if we wanted to. But I came up with a number just thinking about the departments and thinking about the report that we get, every time we meet about how many calls everyone is running. And I think 200's a decent number to put out there, but I think everyone needs to go back and look and see what all you guys really do, because I know the oyster dinner in Reiner is big, and I don't know what Reiner Rescue does, and I don't know how much they train or I don't know any of that. You guys know it. Sit down and come up with a number, and then come back. You may come back with less than 200. 200, I think 200 is doable for everyone. But you guys need to tell us that 200 is doable. Don't put it back on Billy. Look, I got Billy Hanks said we got to do 200.
Oh, we are.
Yeah, I know you are. I take the heat really well too, CJ. But I think go back and think about it. Think about what your department does, and think about how you operate in your activities, and come back with a number. Then we may tweak it and meet in the middle somewhere. I'm not saying that has to be the number. I'm just giving you an idea of what I've been adding up on the phone and stuff here tonight.
Any other discussion on it? So So we'll keep that on the agenda and be on next month's agenda to see if we can nail down that number. Sounds like everybody kinda likes the hour method of tracking, so we just need to nail that down. Any other new business? Go to discipline reports.
Just to touch on what Chris said earlier, we've had two pretty good sized fires here recently. Special thanks to Christiansburg Long Shop, also Moco, and a special thanks to Christiansburg Long Shop and Moco while they covered our calls the other day while we laid one of our own to rest. We appreciate everything you guys did for us on that. Thank you.
Just backtracking all the way back to November, and I wasn't here, but our Fire Prevention Week open house was a success. I don't know how many of y'all might have brought trucks to it, but it was really, really, really well received. A whole lot better than the parade has ever been received. So I think we're going to continue on with the open house during Fire Prevention Week moving forward. And we had good turnout from the citizens in town, and they'd rather come look at fire trucks and not hear all the noise. And but we appreciate everyone coming out and helping us support that. And then also thank Blacksburg and everyone that's come around to help us on fires here lately, because it seems like we've had a run already this month.
Thanks, Chief. Virginia Tech.
Only thing that I have is we've been working with New River Community College to put on an advanced EMT class starting in January. It'll go till about May 6th. So if you guys have any members that are interested, please reach out to me.
Thank you. Rescue Chief.
No report.
Right of fire.
Only thing I've got, we've got the Christmas parade we're gonna do Saturday. Anybody wants to come out to it, it'll be, line up will be 1:30 to 2:30, and start time will be 3 o'clock.
Elston Fire Department, Chief.
Just have we had a change in leadership for this coming up year. I'll be the chief, and Chief Howery will be moving to assistant chief.
Home Shop Fire.
No report.
Home Shop Rescue has no report. McPhillips. Report. Emergency Services report. No report. You don't have any report on that? You didn't do anything last week? Monthly call reports.
Yeah. One more
In
thing.
your packet.
One more thing, Steve.
Okay.
Christiansburg Christmas Parade is on for tomorrow night. They were talking about canceling the thing because of the weather coming in, but they have decided to move on forward with it, so that's tomorrow night. Line up for any fire apparatus, EMS apparatus will be on Park Street, up on the hill the way we normally line up. They would ask that it be a silent parade. You run your lights, but no sirens. But that's, I think lineup is for that is 6 o'clock tomorrow night, I believe.
Does that include like motorcycles?
I argued that point, Chris.
They tend to get loud.
Yeah, motorcycles got pretty loud last year. But, more than welcome to come if you want to. They got almost 100 entries in the parade this year, so probably be an hour and a half parade.
Mikey, where's your parade?
It'd be, they'll come out the back of the school down to Fairview Church, and then up through Cloverleaf, and down Route 8. The state don't like us closed down Route 8. Yep. But we'll have hot chocolate and Santa afterwards, so.
So the monthly call reports were included in your packet. Is there any comments or discussion on that?
Yeah, I noticed on there, we had a call to Tech. I don't recall ever going to Virginia Tech.
I can look at it. It's what came in on the report from the 911 center.
Might have been that one of your units got accidentally dropped on the wrong call.
Okay.
if you wanna come.
Y'all hard, we'll come, but.
It's welcome on campus.
7 times a year, 8 hours at a time. Come on.
We gotta do something, we'll come.
Yep. Your help will be appreciated.
Yes.
Anything else that needs to come before the commission tonight? Next meeting will be January the 15th, 2026. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.